Hey, what's up everyone? Miguel Quiles here. I'm a Sony artisan of imagery, and in today's video, this is actually going to be a series of videos where I'm going to introduce you to some of my favorite lenses for using when I shoot portraits, whether it's close-up beauty work or fashion work on location. There's a certain number of lenses that I really love to use, and rather than just giving them all to you in one video, I feel like I'm just gonna talk about each individual one and kind of give you the pros and the cons for each one. So in this video, we're gonna talk about the 90mm 2.8 macro lens. It's a G series lens from Sony. It is unbelievably fantastic, and I'm gonna tell you all of the reasons why in a moment. The Sony 90mm G series macro lens is the lens that I reach for when I need optimal sharpness. This is one of the sharpest macro lenses that has ever been made. It's one of two lenses in my camera bag that I use and I love so much that I've actually given it a nickname, and I've actually nicknamed this lens Excalibur. And that's because it's so sharp. It's an amazing lens. So anytime I'm taking any close-up portraits and I want to get this like next level of detail and sharpness, that is the only lens that I'm reaching for. It's not something that you're gonna use all the time, because believe it or not, we as photographers are always striving for sharpness, but there's certain scenarios where you don't want that. Obviously, if you're doing a close-up portrait and it's someone that doesn't have great skin, that macro lens is going to exacerbate that. You're gonna see a lot more detail and a lot more sharpness, and when you go into Photoshop, it's gonna take you a little bit more work. Kind of talk about this in a video called Photographing Skin, so if you haven't seen that video, definitely check that out. But the macro lens is the lens that I reach for when I'm trying to capture optimal image quality. In today's photo shoot, I decided to use the 90 macro exclusively for all of these shots. I'm photographing Stephanie, who has fantastic skin. And so a lot of people will ask me, and again, I talk about this in Photographing Skin, but I get a lot of people that will ask me, what did you do in post-production to get this level of detail? And in reality, it has less to do with the Photoshop's processing and the retouching of the image, and it actually has more to do with the lens that you choose to use. So if you're trying to get optimal sharpness and image quality, as I am in this photo shoot here, where we're photographing Stephanie on a Savage, it's an olive green background. We've got kind of like a little bit of a cool lighting setup going on. And I'm using this because I know that I'm gonna be able to get a lot of detail out of this image. And it really has nothing to do with post-production. It's all comes down to the lens choice that you pick to take this photo. For this next look, I continued to use this 90 macro for this shot. We kind of did some fun. We had a fun idea, myself and the team, to do this like kind of bright pink background. And so again, this was a situation where usually if you're shooting at a higher f-stop, you get a lot of detail. So at f8 to f11, you get a lot of sharpness, a lot of skin texture. But what's really beautiful about this 90mm G series macro is you could actually shoot a little bit more open. So like you could shoot at f4, f3.2, and it still gives you a beautiful blurry background. If you are if that's your style and that's what you're trying to go for, you could definitely do that with the 90 macro. As you can see in these shots, I actually shot these not at my typical f8 and f11, but they still came out beautiful. Well, there you go, guys. This is the Sony 90mm macro. This is one of the very best portrait lenses available for the Sony full frame E-mount system. I want to ask you guys, have you ever used the macro for shooting portraits? If you have, let me know how you like it in the comment section below. And if you haven't used it and you're like, Miguel, you're crazy, why are you using a macro to shoot portraits? Try it out, give it a shot. This is one of the very best lenses, whether you're shooting with a, maybe you guys are used to shooting with an 85, or used to shooting with some other type of lens, and I actually do want to close out with that. I get a lot of people that will ask me, why do you have an 85mm, like a 1.8 or a 1.4, and then you also have this 90mm macro? There's not too big of a difference in the focal length. So we'll talk about this when I highlight the 85mm video, but the short answer is that 90mm is all about sharpness. So when the situation calls for a shot that has to be extremely sharp and detailed, the macro is the only lens that you could reach for. It is the very sharpest lens. So let me know how you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you would like to see in future episodes of this series, where we highlight basically my favorite lenses to use for shooting portraits. And check out the description as well. I've got some additional details and information on the lens. But with that being said, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.